go ahead and call this meeting to order. Look for approval of minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass. Quarterly financial report, is there any questions? Anybody has a nose?
Since you guys didn't have them last week in your packets when it was emailed, since they were just produced yesterday, just want to let you know all loans are current and up to date. So there's nothing in there that's out of the ordinary beyond just our standard expenses.
No questions, I'll take a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Go on to our coordinators report with staff.
Okay, so a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. The DNR Local Trail Connections grant that I authored has been submitted. So with the assistance of Brandon and Teresa, we, I think, wrote a very successful grant application. I'm praying that it's strong enough that it comes back that we can get awarded those funds. We were able to secure letters of support from the Dodge County EDA, Dodge County Commissioners, the City of Casson, in addition to one individual in the community wanting to express their support. So hopefully that'll come back. I did send it in at the beginning of March for review by the DNR, and they were very pleased with what they saw. We didn't have to make many adjustments to it, very minor shifts to the application that was initially submitted. So hopefully that's a good sign that we might get some good news here at the end of June or beginning of July on that. The city logo, I know we had talked about having kind of an open forum with community members to talk about what a logo concept could be. Following our last meeting, there was some additional discussion amongst council members at the workshop that they had. Dan and Chris could probably add in if you need to. But right now, doing a new logo is not necessarily a priority. So that has kind of been put on hold. But the one thing I did want to update you guys on is it does sound like the chamber in the comprehensive plan, it talks about community branding and finding ways to have a unified brand throughout the community. And the chamber is one of those main players in that discussion. So at their last meeting on the 27th, I believe it was, they had discussion about finding ways to have a branding initiative or something like that. So I think the chamber is looking more into community branding, not necessarily logo, but branding for the community. So I just wanted to provide you with an update there. And let's see. Just make sure I don't have anything else lingering in my report that I forgot about. No new updates really on anything else. Did any of you guys have a question when you looked over my coordinator report on anything I had on there?
What time is gas connections on Thursday?
9:30 a.m. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just for consistency's sake, I did schedule out through the end of the year the casting connections, sticking with 9:30. That was the one that seemed to bring the largest group of people. If we have to change that going forward, you know, we can, I think, do it on a month-by-month basis. I just wanted to make sure it was at least on the calendar, and Daniels was prepared for that too. So I'm just sticking with the first Thursday following an EDA meeting every month at 9:30, just to be safe.
I was wondering, when, do we have any idea as to when we might hear back on the small cities application?
I want to say May time frame.
I think they're hoping to come back to our first May council meeting with some preliminary results or report back is what they said.
Okay.
Last time.
Yeah, May is what rings a bell to me as well, so. And that's all I have for that.
Okay, we'll go to our ready presentation with Ryan Nolander.
You want me up here, or?
Yeah, that's
Such a formal place.
This one.
As Dan said, I know a few of you, but for those who don't know me, I am Ryan Nolander with Rochester Area Economic Development. And, I've met with Teresa and Stephanie a few times and thought it would be good to come in and just introduce myself and who I am. I was born and raised in Albert Lea, Minnesota. Went to the University of St. Thomas, got my degree in finance, and then meandered my way back to the town I was never gonna go back to, which was Albert Lea. Did a few jobs there, but 13 or 14 years ago, I had the opportunity to get into economic development there, and spent the last 5 years running the organization over in Albert Lea prior to coming to Rochester last June. So I've been with Rochester area since June. 10 months will be Thursday, so I'm still fairly new, but I'm getting out and making the rounds. And what I'm doing is just trying to introduce people to who we are, what we do, and the programs we manage, and my thoughts on where I want to go in the future with the organization. In front of you, you've got a couple things. You've got a newsletter, and you've got our mission vision. You know, and I want to point out that even though the R in READY stands for Rochester, the A to me is more important as an area. And so we work in the 4-county MSA, Rochester MSA, which is Dodge, Olmsted, Wabasha, and Fillmore. And we do work beyond that with our sister organization, Journey to Growth. And that's important to me. I know how important it is to work regionally, having come from this region. So in front of you, I'll walk through a couple things to try to note some stuff we're working on, different programs, and talk a little bit about what we're looking at regionally. In front of you, if you start with the newsletter, my letter on the front there is actually a lot of what I spoke about at our annual meeting back in February, talking about regionalism, and the fact that what got me onto that topic was that first paragraph talks about the Federal Reserve had an article talking about the economy in Rochester, and there was some comments made about there isn't a regional perspective on development, and that really caught my attention, like, okay, this is something that really has to be worked on. My feeling is if we can work together and stop working in silos and being rivals, I think it's better for all of us. You know, if we can't get a project, we're all competitive. You know, you guys want every project in Casson, and people in Stewartville want every project in Stewartville, but if we can't locate them there, can we locate them in one of our neighbors that's gonna be better for our region? And so that was the premise behind what I talked about there. I've already been out and I've made visits. Like I said, I've met with Teresa and Stephanie here in Casson, but I've been to Byron, Chatfield, Eota, Harmony, Orinoco, Pine Island, Stewartville, making the rounds. I've been part of the Southeastern League of Municipalities with Dan and working together on a bill, which I'll reference a little bit later, talk of what we're working on regionally. So I'm trying to make the rounds to get myself out there and make sure everybody knows that we are focusing on the region and not just Rochester proper. And there's some reasoning behind that, and I'll get into that. If you go through this newsletter, lots of information in here. Annual meeting that I referenced on the inside of the front page. Third one, we're doing a series of events around women entrepreneurial activity. And so we're doing a lot of that. That's just a focus on one of those. In the middle are some of the programs that we manage, and some of these obviously are specific to Rochester. If you look at, you know, in the middle side here, these stats, we manage the Mayo Business Accelerator, and so a lot of that obviously is coming out of Mayo Clinic and its health and biotech and those type of things. We manage the City of Rochester's Economic Development Fund, which is one of the programs under our umbrella. We also administer the Venture Capital Fund, the Southeastern Minnesota Capital Fund, and that is more of a regional approach. There's 56 investors, and that is a $2 million venture capital fund. We're one of 56 votes, so we don't have a lot of control there, and of course, those investors are looking for a return, so it's not like free giveaway money, but that is another thing that we want to look regionally, and they want to diversify. They made 7 investments last year. I think all of them were in the medical world. They want to diversify into other technologies, whether that's ag innovation, manufacturing innovation, different things. They want to look at projects. So if you guys are aware of them, let us know, and we'll work with them. And then the other thing that we manage in our office is the 504 program through the Small Business Administration, which is down here on the bottom right. And I'll touch base on a little bit about that organization. If you go to the back pages, again, inside the back cover, you've got some stuff about the accelerator and Myriad. We did a lot with Myriad grand opening. But the very back page is we always like to do in our quarterly newsletter a focus on a project from 504. And so if you open up that last one, this is a project that's currently located up in Orinoco. 504 works across the region, and they've got a lot of, people don't know a ton about them. Our 504 office actually has 136 loads they're servicing, $53.5 million, and they do cool projects like this all the time. This is one of those that was from Orinoco. Last quarter we referenced or highlighted, they did some funding for the Little Thistle Brewing over in Rochester. They work across the region, and so we want to get the word out about what's going on with 504. The last thing that was right in the middle, which was kind of a free-flowing page, was just some stats. And you'll notice that the back page does have a little bit more specific towards Rochester building permits, but the front page is the key. It's the Rochester MSA again, Dodge, Olmsted, Wabasha, Fillmore, talking about the employment, unemployment rates, those type of things. And we like to get that information out there to everybody that invests in us so that we can make sure they know where we're at when we look at that region. The other thing I want to point out that's not in here, and it was on our last quarter newsletter, but we do things also across the region such as RAVE, which is an event we do for recognizing, awarding, valuing, and entrepreneurs. We had that last fall, and as part of that we always do honorees. And this year our honorees were Crystal and Patrick with Sprout Steak here over in Stewartville, Vids from Trailtopia in Byron, and the Kramers from Harmony Enterprises in Harmony. So again, regional entrepreneurs that have done something unique and different. We also have done things like Manufacturers Week, where we partnered across the region to have students go into the manufacturers during that week and see what's really going on behind the closed doors. And we actually held the kickoff in one of our community partners, Stewartville, at Geotech. So the state brought people down from DEED and did a little proclamation there. So again, we're working across the region. The other thing I want to know is just our mission vision. You know, and this is just basic stuff, but I'd like to point out that, you know, our mission is to be an economic enabler to the Rochester area, and the keyword area. You know, I like to point that out, that we're not just focused on Rochester. The vision, again, talks about trying to be a regional economic development innovator, partnering. Again, partnering, it's all about partnering. And a few examples of what I see us doing and what we're doing, and the reason it's important to have relationships with people like Casson and Stewartville and Byron and Orinoco is I'm finding out very quickly that a lot of site selectors, real estate people that are looking at locating projects do reach out to Rochester first. It's the, you know, the center of the economic engine down here, and so people reach out to us first. The problem is Rochester really doesn't have a lot of land for development, and it's super expensive. And so what we're doing is we're having to refer those site selectors to partners like Casson, Byron, Orinoco. So we've been pitching property in Stewartville with Joya from CETA. We've been pitching property up in Pine Island with Devin from up there, Mary over in Byron. We've been putting property out there because Rochester really doesn't have any. And they don't have a plan right now, which it's kind of a unique situation coming into that. Thinking, you know, Rochester's the third largest community in the state of Minnesota, #1 employer, they're going to have all their, you know, ducks in a row, but they don't, because I think they got so focused on DMC that they have started investing all that money downtown. When I started asking questions about, well, where are you going to have growth for large parcel developments, you know, manufacturing and warehouse, they don't really have an answer right now. And I don't think they're going to have an answer for years, because it's a lot of money to extend the water and sewer and rebuild all the infrastructure. So it's really important that we have relationships with communities like yours in order to help try to land those projects that I mentioned earlier, that if we can't get them, let's make sure they're in the neighborhood. We also work across the region on entrepreneur ecosystem. We've been working with Collider and the co-working space in Rochester, making visits to the Garage Co-working in Winona, making visits to Austin, their startup factory with Judy Lundy there. We're working closely with Neela up in Red Wing and Ignite, working across there, and that whole ecosystem really wants to have trading between all of that. The commissioner of DEED was down this week, or last week, was down and did a little roundtable with that ecosystem, and they all were in the room talking about how we're so unique, because Minneapolis-St. Paul obviously kind of has that ecosystem in such a small, tight area, where we've got to work regionally, because we've got resources, but they're all across the region, and we need to learn to share and do those type of things. So, we're working across that, with the entrepreneur ecosystem. We also like to partner with our regional, organizations like Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation and also CEDA. We partner with CEDA on the Regional Development Tour, the bus tour. We partner on Manufacturers Week. We like to partner with Southeastern Minnesota League of Municipalities. Obviously, this bill, for those who don't, I think you guys provided a resolution from Casson as far as supporting that bill, but it's a $25 million evergreen loan fund, revolving loan fund, that we hope, if we can keep legislators out of it, which is always the hardest part, but if we can keep them out of it, the current programs the DEED has for those type of things are really restrictive, and you have to create this many jobs at this pay, and they don't allow certain things. And so the idea is to try to keep it so that we can make it flexible and work for things like workforce housing, or for expanding child care, doing stuff that we haven't been able to do with the current programs. But our sister organization, Journey to Growth, is leading that effort, and I'm working closely with the regional partners such as Dan. He's been up, I was talking about before the meeting, he was up and testified on behalf of the bill at the Senate. So those are the type of things that we're trying to do across Ready. And again, as you can see, Ready's trying to think regionally. I'm thinking regionally. As part of that, I just want to make sure we have a relationship, and we have a relationship with you guys in the EDA here. I know in the past, back in '96 to 2003, you guys did support Ready as far as financial investment. I'd love to have you guys be a financial investor, and if that's not in the books right now, I just want to make sure I'm introducing myself and building a relationship, and we can work together to go down that path in the future. So, any questions or anything that you have for me and Ready and Journey to Growth and all of those wonderful things?
I'll ask a question. Or do you want to go?
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, I'm particularly interested in, what you were mentioning about the, kind of with the accelerator and the interest in VC,
Yep.
diversification.
Yep.
I just figure, I don't know that we've talked about it all, but we've got a new facility that's opening up sounds like is willing to have multiple, section it off into multiple areas with our shopco, like, going under. I'm wondering, is that something where that conversation, might be something that Ready could be involved in? Because I don't think we have a model here, if that was something of interest to them.
Are you you're talking about the Shopko building?
Yeah, shopko, and all.
Who owns that?
It's a property.
Yeah.
I've been communicating with them here
Okay.
just recently, and they're coming to town to meet here in a couple weeks.
Is the idea for them to get out of the property and have locally somebody own it, or?
They've kind of left it open.
Okay.
They're looking for assistance in getting it rented to another tenant,
Yeah.
subdivided into multiple tenants, or what the next step is, but, I think I CC'd you on the last
Yeah.
email when I emailed them back, so I'm waiting to hear when they're coming. That was kind of piggybacking on the question I was gonna have is, I'm trying to assemble people to be there,
Yeah.
because they're gonna fly all 4 partners in to talk, and to assemble people that would be there would be a
Yeah.
resource for them, because we can only assist so much. Like you said, our scope is limited, but if something like that would be interest you, I'm
Yeah.
certainly.
I'd welcome to join you at the table.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna refer back to you guys, because you're here with boots on the ground every day and know what
Right.
things are there, but if I can come in and try to provide regional perspective and maybe ideas, yeah, I'm more than willing to join you.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
I think the 504 could be helpful in that, if they've got people
Yep.
going in out there that need funding,
Yeah.
504.
You could just find a banker.
Pardon? Yeah, you gotta find a banker. And then you gotta go from there to, the bank, it's a 50-40-10 split type thing. If they wanna renovate something in there, they can do that. There's a lot of different things they can do.
Well, and that's, the partner, you hit right on it, what's happening a lot of these days, and Tom can reference it, because he's in the banking industry, but, restrictions and regulations have put some restrictions on how much you guys can borrow versus security and how comfortable you are, and, So if the bank's really willing to go 50% and you can bring maybe the 504 in for 30 and there's 20, you know, that's where maybe that diversification loan fund can fit in too, inside of business
There's
expansion.
a lot of ways of going about getting the funding
Yeah.
for it.
Yep,
But the 504 has done quite a bit for
Yeah.
a lot of places.
yep.
Yeah, great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked with either like Laura or Dwayne or Mary over at 504, but they'd be good. I mean, I don't know, if you want a banker, I'll try and make it if you have the time.
Yeah, right now, it sounded like they were just,
If
they wanted to come to town to.
Yeah, feel it out.
What do you guys
They
have?
Just to see they wanted our assistance in helping find a tenant was their first email.
I'm
I said, well, we
assuming since the announcement, you've all brainstormed, you know, what would possibly go in there. What are some thoughts that you guys have, from the local area and community that might be a good fit for that building?
That's been the challenge, because we don't own it. We didn't
Yeah.
know until Saturday night about 11 o'clock, I got the email from the
Okay.
ownership group. So, that they
You just
wanted to
found
come
out.
meet, yeah, so, without knowing what their plans are, did they have a plan, a contingency plan? We didn't know, so.
Having worked with enough of them, I think they'll probably come in and say, what do you guys have in mind?
Yeah, so.
How can you help us?
Yes, the communication lines just got opened
Okay.
up here in the last
Yeah.
48 hours, so.
Someone that I heard was talking about it said they'd like to see a Fleet Farm or some farm party go in there and on the same side of.
Well, and how many square feet are in there?
Between 30 and 36,000, isn't it?
Yeah, at least.
You know, obviously Stephanie and Teresa should also, and you guys should have people that are reaching out, are there people that need, like you said, 5,000 square feet, is there a way to maybe subdivide it into multiple tenants? The ownership group might like that, just because the worst case scenario is what they have. You know, we built a building, we have one tenant, and that tenant goes bankrupt or goes out of business, and now they got a building. But if you can multi-divide it, maybe you've got 3 or 4 that want to divide it up, that helps them, because if one goes away, then they're not stuck
Yeah.
with the whole building, so.
And I don't know, this is the other thing that I think will be clarified, but like they have it currently listed for sale. Granted,
Right.
that's including the Shopco lease that they had existing, so I don't know if they would even consider selling it, 'cause I have made contact with a few people who have expressed interest in commercial properties, and, you know, previously, and that, so they may very well, I provided Brenda's contact information to them too, but I think they're more interested in the purchasing aspect than the leasing aspect.
I think they're open to
So,
either.
those discussions might be had as well.
Well, it's always, I mean, it all comes down to money, but it's always great if the local, whether it's community, EDA, or whoever can have ownership of it, you know, then you guys can kind of control the future. If you've got an outside group, you never know what they might try to put in there, but, no, I'd be willing to join, I mean, at least be at the table and listen to the conversation and interject when I can.
When I hear back from them,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
That's perfect. And I think
When I hear
our
contact-
contact information, well, if not, I'll just give you some cards
I
here.
can see it, I've got your info.
You got my contact, yeah, if you could email that out, that'd be
Yep,
great.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Other questions or anything?
So, Ryan, just so the board maybe knows, what does the EDA get out of it if they were to want to have a seat at the table or things like that?
Yep, the current situation, and we've got 5 partners right now, Byron, Chatfield, Pine Island, Stewartville, are all investors and ready. It's $2,900 a year for that investment right now. I'm not sure why that number is $2,900, other than that's what I adopted when I came here. And what you get, currently you get a position on the board. We meet once a month, so you come in, have lunch, talk about what's going on in the area. You also get updates from us, regular updates, programming updates, initiatives, projects that we're working on. The reason I said, I didn't throw the air quotes up yet, but we are currently looking at our bylaws and how do we change them. Our board structure, we currently have 32 board members, which gets to be hard. We're looking at how do we change that. If we change that down to 15 or whatever the number is, I still feel like the community partners need to have a seat at the table. And whether that's 1 or 2 voting, and then the other ones can be ex officios and show up if they want. We're also looking at structures where maybe the board gets smaller. We have a monthly board meeting once a quarter. All investors are invited, and the community partners would have a vote or two on that board no matter what. But then you guys would be invited to at least the quarterly stuff. We're still trying to balance that all out right now, but I've told our executive committee and attorneys that are reviewing that the community partners are gonna stay a part of this in some way. You're gonna have some voting fashion, you're gonna have some representation, because I feel it's important that we have that relationship across the region, so.
When you say Stewartville is a member, do you mean Stewartville City or Stewartville EDA?
Stewartville EDA. Stewartville EDA is, I'm not sure if Byron Chatfield, Pine Island EDA is, Stewartville EDA, Byron, Chatfield, I think are maybe city. Not exactly sure, but I do know that Pine Island and Stewartville, because I've gone in front of both those organizations, I know for sure with them, with Chatfield and Byron. Mary's my board chair on Byron right now, so she might just make it from the administrator's position, so I'm not sure how that's done. Other questions? Otherwise, Stephanie will send out my contact information. Feel free to reach out. We'll assist where we can, you know, on these things like you mentioned. And we just look forward to partnering and working together in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda is our downtown lots.
So, the two downtown lots that we have that have sat vacant for quite some time now, one of my seated team members, had a similar situation up in Frazee, and their EDA decided to utilize those lots this winter as an open event space. They ended up putting an ice skating rink and hanging lights above it, just to be able to utilize it and get something out of it and attract people to their downtown area. She said it went over so well that their board was looking at utilizing it during the summer months as well. Their concept was to make it reservable, so through the city they could just reserve the space. It doesn't cost anything, they just have to assign their name to it. But they've had a number of organizations between like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, people who want to like have a small type farmers market, need space but want to be off the roadway in a convenient location. So I just wanted to bring that concept up to you guys just to see if there's some way we could activate it and get more people to our downtown area. So I just thought I'd kind of bring up that idea that she had that seems to have gone over well in her community. I know I brought it up in front of Mike last month, I found out about it literally 2 days after our last EDA meeting, but I had been talking to Mike, and he said, he's not here so I can do this. He said that he would be interested if it was the ice skating rink, that he thought that would be cool, and if there needed to be a committee, he would be willing to sit down and discuss the concept. So,
Does he ice skate?
His
kids
are
and
not.
hockey. He's also on the board.
I know, have you noticed how many blade things you could get across that? Sorry. A lot of hockey in my family, I don't even think little kids could.
The two lots that the city owns that are listed for sale right now.
Are they like 20?
You know, where that little
2
tree
feet
is
wide?
growing.
Yeah, 22 feet, yeah.
It's not very big.
So total it's like 40-some feet.
You'd want termites on there.
Little guys.
Yeah.
Real short.
I would be interested in that, if we just have a group of us or a couple of us that wanna, look at what are ways that you could use that, you know, and I mean, even if it's, I think that's something where if we could, partner with like a Lions Club just to clear out some of that, you know, some of the brush and stuff, and then, just kinda tidy up the space. That would be at least a starting point, but.
Undecorate the tree.
Undecorate the tree. But I
They
think
grow
there's,
year-round.
I think there's some way, if we are able to find maybe a partner that would be willing to, if we could scoop out a little bit of probably the topsoil and put down like some, some. Yeah, I was thinking more like sand and gravel, and then doing like, just something that's gonna be a little bit, maybe like, more like pavers, or just something that's more flat. So that you could set up like chairs or tables, you know, whatever, movable things, lay ice, what, you know, I don't know. Anyways, but making it emptier would be a starting point, I suppose. But anyway, the point is, I'd be interested in being with Mike at least, if it's just two of us, I guess, or more of us.
And since he's not here, we need to like table that decision until the next meeting.
Yeah, Mike would do it.
Mike would do it.
As long as Mike's the chair, I'd be happy.
He's not here, so motion second, he's not here.
Yeah.
Send it out to him and get feedback.
So, interest in at least exploring the potentials that may exist?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Are there, does CEDA have any folks that are a little more, that have like a specialty in space activation?
I don't know that any of our communities necessarily done anything like that, other than Riva, which her final day with
Yeah.
CEDA was at the end of March.
Oh, okay. I do know that, like Courtney's done some stuff, not necessarily with CEDA, but with some other
I'll ask.
design group or whatever.
I'll look into that. I'll send out a team email and see.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Move next on to our abatement project.
Okay, so I wanted to provide you all with an update. At the last council meeting, the city council approved to hire Mike Lubani to help with a potential abatement project. We received a request, the city did, from Bigelow Voigt Development, and they ran into some unforeseen soil issues with their property where the old Jenny-O turkey plant was. So they have come to the city and requested some assistance to help be able to get that development off the ground. The development essentially will be 22-unit development, a combination of townhome and patio home, and their goal is to keep the purchase price of those between $225,000 and $235,000. So the city is exploring options with the assistance of Mike Lubani on how we can help to get that correction taken care of, what the city's role might be in that. Otherwise, this is housing that may never get, simply because of this one minor but large.
I was gonna say minor but major probably.
Because of the hurdle they have to overcome with the soil issues. So, just wanted to kind of give you some information on that. I believe they will be discussing more at the next council meeting too.
Is this over at Prairie Willow?
Yep,
Yes.
Prairie Willow Fourth.
What's the have we gotten an estimate on the cost of the soil correction?
Bigelow has, yeah.
Bigelow
Yep.
has, okay, but we don't know.
Yes, so we're gonna have them get new bids, but their original thought was, about $450,000, and it came in about $200,000 higher than that.
Wow. Okay.
So, they're needing to find a way to get that taken care of.
So are they looking for finding a way to cover that 200,000 gap as opposed to the full 650,000?
Yes,
Correct.
just the 200,000
Just the
gap.
overage.
They had accounted for the other.
Yeah.
It was just what came through in excess of that.
Okay. Have they, I mean, this might be a Bigelow question, I was just thinking, have they had, who did they have out there, I wonder, doing soil testing to determine?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's been a year or two.
Yeah, it was a
Then
year.
they're coming back with this now, so they're having it rebid.
Okay.
So, I don't know who did the soil testing though.
Yeah, 'cause I know there's, when I was dealing with that with, some of the stuff over by Elkhorn, it was, it was important to pick the right soil tester. But, I don't know, that was a realm that I leaned more on our engineers to help me figure out who to pick.
Brandon would be a good one to ask
Yeah.
that question on.
Right, so I mean, I would, I don't know if Brandon has any thoughts on who the soil tester.
And I don't know who, and I don't know how much.
Yeah.
I know he's working with them, but.
He's working with
Yeah.
Bigelow, but I don't know if they've got to that point yet, so.
But, okay, so, has Mike crunched any numbers yet? Do we?
No.
No, okay, we just hired him, okay.
Just hired him last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes he's pretty quick.
I don't really know if he's sat down to meet yet.
Okay, okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions on that at all? And we'll continue to keep you updated as the council continues to have their
What
conversations.
does the right soil tester mean?
There's multiple, so there's multiple firms out there that do soil testing, where they go out there and take the sample and then determine,
I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
When you say right,
Oh,
they're
sure,
not
just
all
finding the right.
credible, or?
I think certain ones have different, are either going to put in a different level of effort into the number of places they're gonna sample. That's one potential challenge. The second one is gonna be just how, I think how they specialize. And I think some of them are gonna have just different specialties. So it's not necessarily a matter of like overall credibility, it's more a matter of, are you picking the one that's going to put in sufficient time, collect, sufficient samples, and then specialize in being able to provide those based on the specific type of use you're trying to do. So, I don't know, I do think there's a little difference in the cost if you're focused on like the cost of soil testers, but I don't know how much they care about that. Anyways, it's less to do with like different parties of affiliation of soil testers. It
Yeah.
might be, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I just wondered why you
Yeah.
used the right rather than the credible.
Yeah, no, it was the right fit, 'cause we had, we looked at a few different parties, when I was dealing with it, and we had, and it was just certain ones just weren't the right fit for what we were doing.
The biggest thing is that it is a private development,
Yep, yeah, no, that's their thing. I was just curious if we
Yeah.
knew who it was. Okay.
Next, we'll move on to our Casting Connections agenda.
Yeah, so we have our next Casting Connections, 9:30 this Thursday at Daniels again. I didn't know if there was anything that you guys felt needed to be on the agenda. I thought I might address with attendees, some of what we've gone over today, with regards to, the Chamber's initiative for the community branding and how that discussion is starting. I'm guessing we might get some questions on Shopco, so to be able to answer questions on where that stands at this point. But I didn't know if you guys had, anything else to add. I am going to, Teresa and I talked, and I'm going to try very hard to set a time limit and say we wanna be out of there by 10. I just wanna make sure we get the best use of everyone's time, and the last couple of times it's extended beyond that. If people want to stay, they're more than welcome to, but I don't want them to feel like it's gonna take an hour of their time, because that's not the intent, so,
It's more for informational than anything.
yeah, yeah. So, does anybody else have anything to add to that, or are you comfortable with that agenda? Okay.
Next, we'll move on to other business.
So, Tom, did you wanna start with?
Yep, I told Greg from Hardware Hank that I would, throw out there that, the chamber needs volunteers for the Easter egg hunt on Saturday morning. I will be judging at a section speech tournament, but, I do know that he would very much appreciate having help with, I think, placing eggs, collecting eggs, handing out whatever kinds of things to the children. This Saturday at, I think, 7:30. So, anyways, if,
I think that's when the breakfast starts, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, he
Yeah,
said
I
7:30,
know.
I thought in the email, but a lot of you guys probably had the same email, but
Yeah.
I know
He's still in the park?
And no, it's at the community ed this year,
Oh.
because the park is wet. Yeah,
thought I think it starts at like 9 at Easter egg hunt, but, yeah.
I was going to get my husband to do the bunny, but at the meeting, it sounded like they had somebody, so I
They did.
didn't.
They do have somebody for the
They
bunny.
do now?
Mhm.
They did.
Yeah.
You can always have two.
Oh,
I
really?
wouldn't wanna be
They
that
didn't?
person. I would
Oh.
not wanna be that person
Okay.
to make kids cry.
See, that one bothered me a bit.
We had one kid too, because my wife owns the costume
That's my
shop.
husband, he's kinda tied up.
He drives up to the park
Oh,
and
no.
walks up there with the head off, and puts the head on as the kids are standing there. Years ago, we had a kid who was the
Oh,
bunny,
a kid.
a high schooler.
Yeah.
He drives up and goes, "So where do you want me?" All the kids are, and he puts the head on, it's like.
No. See, that's when my child would become okay with it, because she sees there's a human, but.
I know,
the
mine
kid
too.
is terrified of mascots, so it just never goes well.
Mhm.
Oh, shoot, okay,
She wouldn't want my husband, that he loves to terrify small
Oh.
children.
That's not good.
So he's
It was
hired.
always a contest with our grandkids. I would say, don't hide those eggs. No, they're not supposed to find them, yeah. Just a contest.
I also added late, Joya just established the landing page for the CEDA annual meeting. So that's in your packet. It is going to be held on May 16th from 10 a.m. to 1 at the Round Barn Farm, which is between Lake City and Red Bank. Beautiful location, really cool place. So if you guys are able to, this just goes over some of what they'll be presenting on. There's a lot of good conversation that's going to be happening. And following, if you want to choose to golf, you can sign up to golf as well. So I will send out in the email with Ryan's contact information the actual link for registration on that. And one other piece of business, this is the one I did not want to have to talk about.
Oh, really?
My final day with CEDA is going to be next Friday.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're sad to hear that, but
Yeah.
happy for you.
Thanks. It was hard. The last few weeks have been emotionally exhausting. It was not an easy decision, and then to have to tell everybody has been worse, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely.
it's bittersweet. I'll miss everybody, but CEDA is working on the transition plan, and from what I was told, are in the final stages of the hiring process. So fingers crossed, I'll be able to pass on that contact information to you before I leave as well. But I just wanted to be able to tell you in person, not via email. So it's been a pleasure working with everybody.
Like you too, definitely.
Yeah.
So where are you going, if I may ask?
ONB Bank.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But yeah, sorry to end it on a downer.
Yeah.
You'll
be hard to
You didn't
replace.
like that, you didn't,
Yeah, take her with you.
I wondered when you were gonna get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna allow it, right?
If we've taken a vote, it's not.
It's not allowed.
We deny your resignation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
We could
hard.
try, but I think CEDA has that.
Ron wouldn't like that.
Well, thank you for all your.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll continue to stay in touch. I told Teresa she can't get rid of me that easy, because I'm not gonna be that far down the road, so I'll have to stop in and see how things are going. But there's a lot of things that are in the pipeline, that I couldn't disclose on my coordinator report or anything like that, but if some of them go through, like I'm hoping they will, I think there's gonna be a lot happening in the community over the next couple of years, which is great, so.
Awesome.
Next, we'll have items for May EDAs, or anything anybody wants on the next agenda specifically, or?
Probably the, transition or introduction of new person.
Idea.
Right, like, I think we should probably, I mean, would it be possible for Ron or Gaston or somebody to be here just to
I can
help
ask
with
them
that, or
to.
just ask them?
Gee, we just elected the secretary.
Hey, but remember what we did was
We
we
elected
said
the
EDA
position.
coordinator, we just did the position. I
Yeah.
was at least smart when I did that.
So it wasn't her.
Chardon knew.
I didn't know.
Oh.
I didn't know. This is all very like last minute, quick happening, so I was not prepared, that's for sure. It wasn't my timing. Okay, so
So then that, for May, if we have nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
That's the first, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Next meeting is Tuesday, May 7th.
Sounds
You
good.
ask her, if those opposed. I was gonna
Oh.
give a nay.
There's always one.
Keep it going.
There's always one, keep it going.
Well, thanks, everybody. It was
Thank
great to
you.
meet you.
Nice to
Thank you.
meet you.
Good
Great to
try.
meet you guys. Enjoy, let's see, I think this afternoon is spring. It's
Right.
winter,
Gotta go back to
so.
work, yeah.
I know.